Good morning, Firefly volunteers. Welcome again to another one of my coffee catch-ups. Last month when I had the opportunity to sit down with Candace, I did mention in the video that it was another beautiful sunny Gold Coast day, which it wasn't, it was overcast. But this morning, beautiful day here at the Gold Coast Botanical Gardens, and I'm here, fortunately enough, with another one of our awesome volunteers. So without further ado, let me introduce the president of one of the organisations that I think is really cool is the Gold Coast Tool Library, and that's obviously David Paynter from the Gold Coast Tool Library. So welcome, Dave.
No,
thanks for joining me.
Pleasure, Darryl.
Unfortunately, you don't drink coffee because that makes our coffee catch up a little more plain. But anyway, thanks again for one, being awesome, and thanks for joining me for a quick chat about you and the Gold Coast Tool Library. So
yeah, always happy to chat about both. It's, what we do is great.
Yeah. So let's start straight away, as I do, and let's tell me about some of the good that you're doing.
Yeah, well, the Gold Coast Tool Library, we're a not-for-profit, volunteer-run community sharing platform. The Tool Library is often referred to as libraries of things, a community sharing platform. So we work just like a book library, but instead of books, we loan tools and all sorts of other useful household items that people don't necessarily want to own and possess and store, but they just need to use when they need it. So we have a lot of other items like camping gear, sporting goods, stand-up paddleboards, kayaks, sewing machines, food dehydrators, all those sorts of items that you may not necessarily want to actually have to go out and purchase or store, but when you need them, they're really useful.
Yeah, that's epic. It's my wife has been slowly building up our camping gear. I should have thought about the Gold Coast Tool Library. Anyway, that's a really interesting concept, and as sort of as a DIY sort of guy myself, what's the process as far as like my precious tools now, instead of sitting in my shed, being useful for somebody else? So how do you find the opportunity, or how do you spread the message about to guys like me to saying, hey, listen, you've got a whole tool shop worth of things that are just sitting there collecting dust or going mouldy. How do we know that we can give them to you safely?
Yeah, well, word of mouth and obviously social media and just the general community talking, we have found has spread the word really fast.
Yep.
Probably 80% of all the items in the inventory have been donated by the community.
Yeah.
And that tends to be people who have bought into the process of what we're doing. So there's the environmental benefits, there's the social benefits.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there who can't necessarily afford all of these items, but we're a very, very wealthy society.
Yep.
And people shouldn't necessarily be locked out from the experience of things just because they can't physically afford to go and purchase these items outright.
Sure.
So we work on a membership basis. Just join for an annual membership, $50 per year for pensioners, concession card holders, full-time uni students, $75 per year for general members. And with that, you can borrow 5 items every week at no extra cost.
Wow.
So in theory, if you're a pensioner, concession card holder, you can be borrowing 250 items per year for $50 or $75 for general membership. So it's extremely affordable.
Yeah.
And we see people who come in who might be single parents. They can come in and borrow $1,000 worth of camping gear, go and take the kids on an awesome camping holiday, which they would not have been able to do if they had to fund it themselves.
Yeah.
So there's that community spirit of going, well, I'm not using all of this gear. I know if I ever need it, I can just come and borrow it back again.
Yeah.
But we often find people who are downsizing and they're shifting from a big house to a smaller unit, or they're now living in a unit and it's a box in the sky. They don't have the facilities to store all of this gear or the need to. So they will just come and donate a lot of their gear to us.
Yeah.
And we've got it then in the inventory, and the rest of the community can then enjoy and share in those resources. Plus there's that huge environmental benefit because everything we purchase has an energy debt.
Yeah.
It's been dug out of the ground, it's been processed, it's been packaged, it's been shipped around the world.
Yeah.
And then we buy it, we throw away all that packaging, hopefully it gets recycled, a lot of it doesn't. And the energy debt incurred of those items is contributing to global warming, greenhouse gas effects. And all of that climate change impact, as well as exceeding the Earth's planetary boundaries of the environmental and the resources that this planet can sustain the way we all live.
Yeah.
So there's so many benefits. Plus you then create this community And that's the beautiful thing that I enjoy about the whole not-for-profit or community sector, is you've now got a new tribe of people that you interrelate with. Us as volunteers that run the tool library enjoy seeing our regular members come in, and it's like, oh, what project are you working on now? And I'm like, oh, well, I've finished landscaping the garden. I'm going to borrow the stand-up paddle boards and go and have fun down at Crombin Creek. And it's like, sweet. They'll send us a picture and that's great. Or we get deeply involved with people who are doing home renos, and probably about 60% of our members are female, and that's fairly consistent across tool libraries around the country.
Right.
It's fairly female dominated. Quite often, the men, you and I, we like to have our, a bit like Tim the Tool Man.
We do. We've got to have our stuff, right?
We've got to have our stuff. Where quite often females, they just want the outcome.
Yeah.
They just want the hole in the wall, or they want that bit of timber cut in two.
Yeah.
Or they want to learn how to make and do, create, craft, renovate, make their home better, or get into some sort of craft enterprise.
Yeah.
And they want to borrow some tools and learn how to do it themselves.
Yeah.
So we have a whole diverse membership base of people doing lots of really interesting creative things, and others more just a practical process. I just want to landscape the garden or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Or simply mow the lawn, because our electric lawnmower is one of our most popular items.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny when you mention that that a lot of your users are female, and I think there is that difference. My wife doesn't care how things get done; she just wants them done. But we are in that men's protective cave. But I think there's a really good opportunity for a lot of the users, not male or female, that there is that experience when you go, oh, I've got this idea to do this. I don't really want to go and spend $399 on a particular tool when I can physically try and have an outcome before I buy it if I'm going to buy it. So in relation to the tools that you've got, are they all donated on a prima facie basis, or do I lend them to the tool library and I can have them back? Or
normally in most situations is when people will donate something, we talk to them and they have to accept the fact that this is now transferred from your ownership to the ownership of the not-for-profit, the Gold Coast Tool Library, because we cannot guarantee that that tool is going to be returned to you.
Yep.
Our members are fantastic. More often than not, the items are returned in better condition than when they loan them.
Yeah.
Our members are really bought into what we're doing. In most situations, we ask that tool is actually donated and it then becomes passed on to us. As I mentioned, about 80% of the items have all been donated.
Yep.
We have been fortunate to get a couple of grants from Council and the Community Benefit Fund to be able to purchase some of those more expensive items that weren't necessarily going to be donated, which has enabled us to buy some really good quality, good gear.
Yeah, that's good. So stepping back a bit from the functionality, I'm always interested when I'm talking to awesome people that have a passion for community and stuff like that. What was was there an inspiring moment that said, you know what, I'm going to put together a tool library? What was the Dave Paynter motivation?
Yeah, when I reflect and look back on this, I'm not actually quite sure where that trigger moment was, because it went from very quickly to not having the idea to starting it. It was only within a month or more than it was just happening. So something obviously just dropped in, or some moment occurred, but I had been looking for what was next. I'd been working for some youth charity. I had been volunteering with some various other sort of big charities around on the coast, but I was looking for something that was a bit different, and something that I could kind of call my own. And I've always had that strong interest in environmental, helping make the world a better place, reducing the impacts of our consumptive society.
Sure.
And the tool library model, I'd sort of been vaguely aware of. I'd seen it before in Canada and that many years ago.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I'm not quite sure exactly why, but it was just one of those moments that was like...
It wasn't like you went to the shed and went, I need a hammer. You know what would be great? It'd be a tool library.
No, it's really weird. Like, quite often founders, you can actually trace the moment back to a point in time where you go, click. I'm not quite sure exactly, but the day just occurred and it was like, I reckon a tool library would be a great idea. So I then floated it out to the community through social media and sort of said, anyone else thinking about doing this? What's sort of thoughts on it? We had a really, really positive response. So I thought, well, hey, I reckon this is a go here for the coast. There isn't one here on the coast. At that time, there was two in Brisbane, but they were the only ones in Queensland. So we pretty quickly got a group together, had a couple of meetings at my house, became incorporated, and
Bob's your uncle.
off we went.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, look, Dave, obviously, we're here to talk about the Gold Coast Tool Library, but also, to share some of your thoughts now, having been involved and as a Firefly Initiative member. So let's just cut straight to the chase. What do you think about the Firefly Initiative?
Yeah, well, when I first heard about it, and you were talking there at the Queensland Social Enterprise Council Gold Coast chapter groups, I thought, what a really cool way to try and reward and incentivise volunteers. Like, volunteering is hard to actually. Yes, we have our feel-good moments. We know we're the purpose of why we're there, to help make the world a better place, or it's a particular cause we believe in. But I like the way you can actually get some sort of a tangible benefit back as well.
Yeah.
Like, we all like to be rewarded in some way, shape or form, and sometimes it's simply a praise or a nod or a thanks mate, you've done a great job. It's also nice to be able to have some form of tangible reward. I bought my groceries with Firefly Initiative. Time became a voucher for a supermarket.
Yeah.
And I went and bought some groceries. And as I walked home with those groceries, it was sort of like, I don't need this, but gee, it feels good.
Yeah.
That this is a really good tangible exchange for all of the time that I've put in to the library. I've now got a real tangible benefit back. So I've got all that amazing feel good with knowing what we're doing with the community, seeing the relationships and that community network that we've built, how we're helping people, but I've also got a little bit of a reward back for myself. And I've watched some of our other volunteers as well, and it kind of gamifies it a bit. It's like, oh, well, I've got to this number of hours, this number of hours, and what's next? And then you see the rewards and the benefits that pop up in the marketplace, and you think, oh, well, if I get a little bit more, I can get that.
Yeah.
And so we've then also been chatting amongst ourselves. It's like, well, yes, we can have these benefits that reward ourselves, which is awesome. But we're then also starting to think, well, we could also get some vouchers for the hardware store, and we can get some more stuff for the library.
Sure.
So there's benefits for both ways. So
yeah, that's great. Look, one of our primary mission is to elevate volunteers. And with the amount of volunteers that we have in the community, the unknown volunteers, the background people that society just doesn't really, I think, to a degree, certainly not to the degree that we want to empower them to really appreciate, not necessarily what the volunteers do, but what our communities would be like without them. So if we could add that little bit of thank you to that, then that's terrific. And so, having seen the platform and used it a little bit, and obviously, we've had some great stories. One of the guys that worked as a volunteer for a homeless men's charity had to go at Christmas time to visit family, and was short of funds, but exchanged that for I think it was a Visa MasterCard or something like that enabled him to buy his train ticket and get to the family and all that sort of stuff. And that's just that's exactly what we had hoped. Because obviously, we've come into a bit of feedback from some of the more conventional volunteers that talk about intrinsic value and no, we don't get rewards and we shouldn't because we do it for the cause, and we go and you do. But if there is someone that says, I want to say thank you to you, then why wouldn't you?
Exactly, and we encourage all of our volunteers to sign up to the platform and get involved in it, because we're a very small grassroots organisation. We don't have a lot of funding. We can't go out and buy fuel cards or things like that to give to our volunteers.
Sure.
There's just not the funding there to do that. But this type of initiative works really well to give them some other actual added thank you for being involved in everything that you do. And they understand that, they buy into it, because as you said, they're there for the reason of being involved in the tool library, and that's their primary motivator.
Yeah.
But it's great to have these little secondary little pats on the back and go, that was good.
Good. So obviously, we've been building the platform, and we certainly are listening to our audience, the volunteers, both from the management point of view, like yourself, those volunteers that are running organisations, and the volunteers themselves. So my question to you is, having had some experience on the platform, what do you think, or is there any areas that you think we could improve, or that we could make it a better platform for volunteers?
An app would be good.
An app,
I mean, the website's good in the fact that you can, find yourself a way around and that sort of thing. But the world's moving with apps, and an
Sure.
app would be cool to be able to just log in,
Yeah.
edit in, tap some buttons and things like that.
Yeah.
And even though I know you're not aiming to be a volunteer management platform, especially for little organisations,
Yeah.
trying to have these other big off-the-shelf volunteer management platforms cost money, etc., and it's a whole nother lot of admin. Just some simple volunteer management within the app
Yeah.
would be handy as well.
Yeah. So, and not to say that Dave has stolen some of the thunder here, but you'll see in the newsletter that we're excited about some more information coming on the new app development. So Thanks for leading into that, Dave. That was awesome. But you're right. We had a volunteer webinar session with some of our orgs that are on board, and the feedback was that too. Even without the reward platform, having no data on which volunteer is doing what and what they're actually doing during the time that they volunteer is already a fantastic opportunity for them to use the Firefly app just for that. So we've listened. We're in strong development now to try and make that better. But
Excellent, good.
But Dave, it's been awesome to catch up, man. I think from the community's point of view, so we've got an article in this month's newsletter too about collaboration, because and being individual not-for-profits, it's very easy to be siloed into your mission, your journey, your purpose. But we look across the spectrum, and with 270,000 organisations, so we've got this strong overtone at the moment that we're talking to, and we can feel it happening, that organisations are now starting to think laterally in relation to collaboration.
Yeah.
So as you were talking about the tool library there, I'm thinking about, we've got Men's Shed over here, and and they offer that opportunity to come in and learn some and use some tools and all sorts of stuff. But it's sort of like you could be an extension to that, where I can get some practical skills at things like Men's Shed, and in that, and not with any disrespect to any of our politically correct and gender issues at the moment. Men's Shed is Men's Shed. So I understand why you've got a good female patronage, but how are you trying to position Tool Library with we're trying to collaborate with some of the other not-for-profits?
Yeah, definitely. Like, collaboration is absolutely key, because there's skill sets and interests that exist within other organisations, like within our local area.
Yeah.
Like, we've had great support from some of the men's sheds in our startup phase. They've donated excess tools to us. They've helped us with some ideas.
Yeah.
We'd love to be able to get to the point very soon where we start to run some workshops, because we're constantly being asked, especially by our female members, can you run workshops to show us how to safely use power tools?
Yeah, sure.
Well, there's going to be people in the men's shed who are retired carpenters and stuff who would be perfect for helping to run those workshops.
Yeah.
We've also got some ladies who come out of some of the women's shed movement who are keen to help run those workshops.
Yeah.
We've just got to find space and time to make all that happen.
Sure.
We've also got some other not-for-profits who are members of the Tool Library.
Yep.
And they might come and borrow gazebo, tables and chairs, and when they're having pop-up stalls at the markets, they come and borrow the gear they need.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We're collaborating that way. We're also looking at potential future expansion, and there are some other not-for-profits around on the Gold Coast who work in the areas of like makers spaces and things like that. That we can potentially collaborate to actually join forces, whether it be in a co-located space or whether it just be sharing that skills and knowledge within the two, sharing equipment and things like that. But there's so much to be gained from collaboration. I mean, we do it in business. And it's the same sort of thing can happen with all of us in the not-for-profit or volunteer sector.
Yeah.
That there's skill sets, and people love to give and share their knowledge and skills and help other people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be just within our organisation helping other people. Volunteers can be helping volunteers. And whether that be a skill set, whether you have legal skills or accounting skills, financial skills or social media skills, it's like we've had great help from other not-for-profits to help lift our social media presence.
Yeah.
And that collaboration of helping each other, volunteer helping volunteer, it just helps all of us. That rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, it's really. So lastly, and before we go, just one thing is, what can the global Firefly Initiative volunteer community and the general community do to help support the tool library?
Probably the best thing to do is just share our social media posts and spread the word.
Yeah.
Because so much of our
And give
members,
some tools and
yeah,
resources on.
and have a look at what sort of things could potentially be donated.
Yeah.
Have a look on our website. That will show what the type of items we take.
Yeah.
But that word of mouth we always find is some of the best way of getting the word out and showing the rest of the world what libraries of things, what tool libraries can be. And there's the Australian Library of Things Network, which lists all the tool libraries around the country.
Yeah, right.
So if you're looking for a tool library near you, the Australian one will help that, and the international scene has a lot of libraries of things around the world as well.
Sure. So we find you at, what's the web address?
Yeah, simply toollibrary.org.au. And you'll find us on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Dave, thanks so much for being awesome. Thanks for spending some time with me.
Pleasure.
And thanks for all our Firefly Initiative volunteers for being awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Darren.
Excellent.